Welcome to Daily Magic, a cozy, growth-minded, sparkly corner of the world. Join me, Shaina Wexler, as we revel in and rediscover the abundant magic that fills our daily lives. So brew up some tea in your favorite mug, settle into your comfiest chair, and breathe deep as we create Daily Magic. Hello, my beautiful friend. I am so happy that you are here. How are you feeling today? I hope that you have your cup of tea all brewed up and ready, and you feel all set to just settle right in, because today I have something special to share with you. Fede Vargas, the creator and host of the podcast, My Most Authentic Life, he invited me to do an interview with him on his show, and our episode was published on My Most Authentic Life. It was published last week. Fede and I had such a lovely time together during that interview, and he has agreed to let me share it with you. And I'm really excited about that, because My Most Authentic Life is a podcast that's all about having intimate, authentic conversation with those who've chosen and are living unconventional paths. And Fede has the hope that these discussions are going to help really promote personal growth and inspiration and discovery for the listener. It's a very cool platform where he has conversations with people who've made these massive life pivots or have always been living these very unconventional paths. And it's a really, really cool place to hear just a real diversity of stories of different types of lives that people are living and how they found their way onto their path, what they left behind and changed from to find the creative or authentic path that they're on now. And it's really cool space and a lot of very, very neat and very inspiring conversations. I didn't know Fede prior to our interview and had no idea what types of questions he was going to ask me about me or my career or my life. Like, I had no idea. I just knew that it was called My Most Authentic Life, and I told myself I would show up as authentically as possible with whatever he threw at me. And I was really excited and a little bit / quite nervous. But when we really started on the interview, I was really impressed, not only by the homework that he had done on me and my careers and my journey, but also the really fresh and insightful and interesting angles from which he posed his questions. He was able to draw lines and parallels in my life and in my story and in my work that I hadn't ever even actually put words to, which was really cool. I thoroughly enjoyed the process and the sharing, and I truly hope that you are going to enjoy hearing it as well. And if this interview resonates with you, I encourage you to check out more of the wonderful episodes and stories shared on My Most Authentic Life. And it would mean so much to me if you would support Fede and his beautiful work by going onto Spotify and giving him a 5-star rating. Those 5-star ratings are so helpful to us podcasters. So while you're at it, while you're over there on Spotify giving Fede and My Most Authentic Life a 5-star rating, do you want to just hop on over to Daily Magic and give a nice 5-star rating to Daily Magic as well? That would be great. That would be awesome. No, it truly helps. It truly helps us so much, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much in advance. And now I'm going to turn it over to Fede and My Most Authentic Life.
Our guest today knows what it's like to face fear and lean into vulnerability. Her journey shows how those moments when we step into the unknown can lead to deep, personal, and creative growth. Shaina Wexler is a singer-songwriter, the host of the podcast Daily Magic, and the creator of Reignite Inspiration. This is her story on My Most Authentic Life. Shaina, great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited and no longer nervous to be here.
Absolutely, right? And this is the amazing part of what goes on behind the scenes. Shaina and I were chatting offline before we recorded this, and for some reason, we were both feeling a little nervous. And then you took us through a really calming breathing exercise that got us into the right headspace.
Yeah. Just brought us to a place where we could both connect to
Yes.
ourselves and each other.
Yes,
And that's
yes.
what this is all about anyways. So
Yeah, right? And it speaks to there's no right place to start. And
Yeah.
sometimes there's a beauty about living life out of order.
Yes. And that's something I actually said to my brother yesterday. I said, I have this podcast tomorrow and I'm so excited about it, but I'm feeling a little bit nervous and there's things I want to make sure I say or whatever like that. But then I was like, wait, but the podcast is called My Most Authentic Life. So I'm sure that however I show up is going to be exactly right and going to be just fine. And so, yeah, but sometimes it is, I was intending to come in a certain way, but that's not how I came in, and that's okay.
And for me, it's an ongoing learning process as well. You're creating something and editing something and then creating reels and doing posts on social platforms. And sometimes it can feel contrived, right? Sometimes you just need to go back to the basics.
Of like, why am I doing this? Oh, to connect and be inspired and re-inspire.
Well, I don't know where to start because your story, your life journey is full of so many things. What I discovered is that as part of your singing career, you sing beautifully in French as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm super passionate about the language. I had the opportunity to live over in France for a few years on and off, and it was like my biggest dream for just years and years and years, and I was just so passionate about it. It was so driving and so healing and such a really important, just absolute pivot in my life journey, and it really helped set me up for so many other wonderful things.
There's a duality of getting to embrace another language if you're bilingual. What were the biggest impressions on your mindset? How did it influence your mindset? Being able to think in two languages and being able to adapt to different worlds.
Yes. Well, I love that question. I started learning French when I was 22, and I was really dedicated to being like, not like I'm going to learn French, but I will be French. I will embody like the fullness of this. I wanted no error in accent. I wanted to be perfect in my French. And when I first started my journey of learning, which was teaching myself, I had a lot of people in my life being like, I love your goals, love your dreams, support it, but I don't think you're going to be able to get to that particular level because usually a bilingual kind of a thing will happen when you're younger, and then you can think in both languages and you can process the world in those languages. And I felt like, oh no, like, am I not going to be able to really integrate it into my being the way that I desire to so deeply? And I just did my best to be like, no, I feel this dream. I feel this call. I know I can do it. And it was like, it might take longer and it might be harder, but I want it so badly. And I remember the first time that I ever had a dream that was in French. And I woke up and I was like, I did it. It was like such a celebratory moment where it's like, I'm processing the world around me in another language. And what an incredible, it was like another worldly experience to be like, I'm not thinking in one language and then translating. I'm processing the world in this completely other language. And it was just like such a massive life breakthrough. And my family teases me because it got to a point, where French is so good with deep emotions and the specificity of an emotion, right? We have broad things like I'm sad, but they have just like 27 words for sadness, and you choose the exact color of the one that you're feeling, and not actually 27, but
Yeah, I know.
And I connected so much to that. I connected so much to there being such a range and a depth for ways of speaking about emotions that a lot of times when I would experience an emotion, I would think about expressing it first in French because that was the specific thing. It was, it's this feeling. And then I'd be talking to my family and be like, well, in French, it's this, how would I say it in English? And my sister was like, you're American, so stop trying to like reverse engineer this. That's English is your first language. But it got to a place where I was like, let me try to find the English for this. And I was like, my family's okay. I'm like, okay.
Did your definition of authenticity change at all when you're processing things, like you said, with two different sets of eyes?
That's a really good question. I feel like it took me longer to be able to show up as my authentic self in the second language because like things like off the cuff remarks or humor, it takes longer to like build those pieces in. So I felt like I could answer questions well or have discussion well, but the parts of my personality that just kind of were free flowing, that took longer. And so I would be having conversations with people and kind of having a sense of, like, you know me through my words, but I know that some of my just expression hasn't quite synced up with that language yet. So
Love that.
Yeah, I had an awareness around not quite funny in French yet, you know.
I love all the things that you're saying, because with authenticity, obviously there's this connection to so many other themes, like expression, and language is the ultimate tool for expression. And part of that is, how do we express and process truth through language? And truth is one of the themes you've explored in your work. Yeah, in all of my work, it's been really important to me to be as vulnerable as possible. To me, when I hear authentic, you know, one of the main things that comes through for me is vulnerability. And specifically so because I do have a lot of perfectionistic tendencies, a lot of those. And so my natural desire is to want to come across polished and together and articulate and thoughtful. And I want to be able to portray myself well. And so that can sometimes get in the way. But like you said, doing things backwards, but where are you right now? What are you actually feeling? How are you actually showing up in your skin in this exact moment? And so a lot of my journey has been, how do I peel off my own layers to allow myself to really be vulnerable, even if that shows up as messy? You know, I always have fear around how that's going to be received and perceived, right? But I have found time and time again that when I am choosing to take off my levels of feeling perfect and feeling packaged and feeling polished, that is when the deepest aspects of connection really come through. That's when we're able to really connect on a human level. And, you know, in fact, recently I had a really life-changing experience, and I've just been in such a very, very heartbroken space, just so heartbroken. And I really felt you have to loop your podcast listeners, my Daily Magic podcast listeners. The whole guise of it is that we're connecting authentically and we're cozy together and it's a safe space. And I really felt like Shaina, you have to loop them in and let them know where your heart is, because you can't create magical episodes with joy and inspiration if you are trying to cover the fact that you are also struggling and you're in deep pain right now. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was scary. It was really scary, Fede. And honestly, I cried through part of the episode. I felt so vulnerable recording it. And then I sat there just going like, can I share this with the world at large? And then I just kept feeling and kept hearing like, you just need to share it. You just need to share it. You just need to share it. And I was scared the whole time. I was afraid the whole time, but I chose to share it. And when I tell you that I have actually received a couple of brand new clients who have said, I thought I wanted to work with you, but when I heard your heartbreak episode, that is when I knew I needed to work with you, because I knew that you could relate to and hold space for the grief, the pain, the loss that I'm experiencing. And it was that made me know I needed to work with you. And so, right, I'm experiencing it going, oh gosh, this is so messy. This is so vulnerable. This is so emotional. But I'm trusting that it'll go to the right place. And the listener is going, I feel heard. I feel seen. I feel like it's okay to be where I am. And it's just like, I won't lie. It's always hard to be vulnerable.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not, but I just believe in it,
Absolutely. Yes, it opens up the conversation, even if someone's just listening, right?
Yeah.
Whether that is a conversation that the listener ends up having on their own as a form of reflection.
Yes, and recognizing that it's okay if people are uncomfortable with it also, that for somebody it might be like, oh, wow, that's too much information, or like, pull it together, girl, or whatever. But that's also okay. That's also all right. It'll meet people where it's meant to meet them at the time. And it's not my job to try to figure out, what level of vulnerability. It's my job to continue to peel off the layers and be as honest with where I am at any given moment and face that fear every single time and just do it anyways.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up this experience, and thank you for sharing that very vulnerable part of your life, because it's an integral part of your ongoing journey, and it's so fresh right now. So thank you for doing this interview at this time, right? And it got me thinking of the name of your album, The Truth of Fantasy. And I'm just wondering if you could elaborate on that title, if there are any themes that apply to relationships.
I love that. Fede, thank you. What a great question. Oh my gosh, yes. The Truth of Fantasy, which was a couple of albums ago, that it was exactly that. You received it exactly. It was exactly that, of taking that idea of fairy tales, that idea of that polished image, the ideal of the perfect romance or perfect version of yourself as the princess who follows all the right steps and is perfectly together and, always. And really being willing to embrace the fact that being authentic may just be even more powerful, may just be even more beautiful, may just be even more of the fantasy, right? Like the truth of fantasy is that by releasing the image of the ideal and what I want or need it to be and allowing it to be, I can experience so much more in regards to levels of myself, in regards to what I receive from the world, in regards to what I allow and make space for others. So yeah, when I did the photo shoot for that particular album, I was in these really beautiful ball gowns, but I was barefoot and I was like climbing big trees, and I was like, it's okay if the hem of the dress gets dirty. I kind of like that, right? Because it's the beauty while in the real. And oh my gosh, what an amazing thing to recognize that maybe that's even more beautiful.
I love that. Debunking fairy tales.
Yes.
Or maybe, I love the way you put that, or maybe the rawness and the messiness, that is the fantasy.
Right. Because when I was trying to be my perfect image of myself, which was based upon other people's perfect images of me, how they wanted me to be, how they wanted me to show up, and it was so important to me that I could deliver that for the people in my life. I realized that the image that I had crafted of myself, of who I needed to be, the standard of how I needed to retain myself, was based on other people's ideals for me. I realized that when I was just starting to allow myself to just unfold and just be whoever I was at any given moment and let that be okay, and let the negative emotions be a part of my experience as much as the joyful, smiley, happy ones that people were expecting of me, I found, whoa, there are depths of myself that are so beautiful that I never gave space for, that I was so scared of, or that I thought would diminish me, but really they're making me a larger version of myself, a more expansive version of myself.
Absolutely. And it feels like that unfolding and embracing has kept evolving. And talking about the power of language, I've noticed this theme of reigniting in your work. Can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah, actually, it's really interesting to hear you say it in that way, because you're definitely right, but I don't think I've ever actually thought about it in those particular terms. But when I hear you say it, you are right that theme has really underscored a lot of what I have created for a really long time. The first thing that comes to my mind when I hear you say that is that one of my songs on my first album is called réanimer, which is the French word to reanimate or bring back to life. And then, yes, my podcast, Daily Magic, has a very strong theme of rediscovering the magic that is filling our daily lives. And yeah, I recently created a holistic coaching called Reignite Inspiration for anyone who is feeling blocked or burned out, to help them be able to fully dissolve those blocks. So yes, in general, a really core aspect of what I'm passionate about in all of my work, my music, my podcast, my YouTube, my coaching, is to empower others to live their most joyful and inspired lives. Because to me, I feel that those things, those aspects are really the keys of what makes life really, truly worth living, you know? For all of us, over time, with the pacing of life, with the pressures of life, with our responsibilities and our losses, our disappointments, the way things like don't turn out sometimes the way we imagine them, right? Like things can get really heavy. And it's so easy for us to really lose touch with our source of joy, our source of inspiration, our ability to actually see the magic in our lives. And my Reignite Inspiration coaching was actually born from a time of really deep loss and grief and pain in my life. I had a dear friend of mine, Robbie, pass away unexpectedly. And when he passed away, my voice, my creation energy, my inspirational flow, it just shut off completely, like completely. And I had experienced a lot of loss in my life, but I had never been at a point where the pain made me feel so completely like cut off from any sense of flow. And so through that pain, I got really curious about trying to really understand, where does inspiration come from? And like, do we have any control over when it comes and when it goes, or those moments where it really, really flows, you know? And with that deep curiosity and that really deep desire to reconnect with that space in myself, I came to the understanding that while we aren't the creators of inspiration, there are absolutely body, mind, spirit, and emotion conditions that we can create that can allow inspiration energy to be continually running through us. And when I truly understood this and practiced it and saw the ways that I was able to actually not only reconnect to that space inside of myself, but stay connected even through really difficult times, because there were more really difficult times. But when I saw that I was able to stay connected to that, feel that I was able to stay connected to that when I practiced those conditions, I realized that I could create something that would help others be able to really reconnect with their inspirational flow and therefore like their joy for life. And for me, that feels very, very important.
Well, it seems like rediscovering inspiration and finding joy has been a central theme in your work. How do you navigate those moments when fear or resistance threatens to block that flow?
Yeah, I think that overcoming fear, it's a choice each time. It doesn't mean that it's like, okay, I did it. Now the fear is gone. It's, I feel the fear. I feel the resistance, and I choose to be the bigger the largest version of myself. I choose to be the fullness of myself that encompasses all of the things. I'm afraid, I feel the resistance, and I step over it, and I embrace, right? For me, at least, personally for me, that's never just gone away completely, right? What about for you? Do you feel that you've been in a space where, obviously I think it diminishes the more we flex that muscle, the more we practice, the more we face that fear. But what about you? Do you feel like it is that way for you? Or do you feel like you've been able to make hurdles and just go, it's gone now, it's done now?
Yeah, it's so interesting when you look back at it, because there's always a new hurdle to overcome. But once you take the first hurdle, it makes it much easier.
Absolutely.
To remove what I would call blockage.
Yeah.
Like I can't have a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Removing that blockage, and then I can't do video, and stepping into new challenges. Then once you start doing it and practicing it and get through that awkward stage, it keeps getting easier and you keep growing.
Yes. Well, and there's evidence of the fact that when you step over it, that you're capable, right? Every time you step over the fear and then you're met with the, oh, I was capable of doing this. I stepped over the fear. Oh, I am capable. Or, oh, that did meet people in the right place, or that was helpful. That it emboldens us, certainly.
Beautifully put, and a perfect message to start wrapping up on.
Yeah.
And we're going to close off with a rapid fire round.
Okay.
The first question for you is, what is your definition of authenticity?
Definition of authenticity: vulnerability, openness, sincerity.
What is the biggest gift that you've learned about yourself on this journey?
That I'm capable and I am enough and I am worthy.
What is the scariest thing that you've discovered about yourself on this journey?
I think, as contrary as it may sound, that I am limitless. And so I can go as far as I let myself go. I can grow as far as I can let myself grow. I can heal as far as I can let myself heal, right? So because there isn't a cap, it's kind of like, oh, Yeah. And that's empowering and scary.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Shaina, for sharing your incredible journey.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for trusting whatever was going to come out of me. Thank you for the questions that you posed and all of the preparation. It means a lot to be here and to have the opportunity to connect authentically, to have that invitation to be able to show up as whoever you are and connect to somebody else however they are. So that's really a gift. Thank you so much.
That's today's personal journey. You can follow me around the web at My Most Authentic Life, and you can connect at mymostAuthenticLife.com. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep living time on.